Okay, so I know you're excited, but before I even get into anything, a couple of things, guys. First, this is not the Test Drive Limited Solo Crown info that we're supposed to be getting before March 9th. This is something totally separate, and a lot of you guys are gonna be happy about that. Another thing is that this is primarily a WRC Generations interview, but I'd be lying to you if I said that there was no mention of TDU in this interview, along with some very cool stuff regarding the KT engine and how WRC Generations was developed. So make sure you don't skip a single thing because we're going straight into this, guys. Welcome. 3 years in the making, pretty much, the Kylotonn developer interview with none other than Alain Jarniou. So without further ado, let me go straight into the questions and the answers, guys. You already know what it is. And just a quick reminder, guys, we actually are supposed to be getting TDU information, probably a lot more than what you're gonna hear in this developer interview, before March 9th. And that's literally, if you check your watch, that's not on my hand right now, it is literally going to be in less than 3 weeks. And watches don't tell days, so I don't know why I said that. But nonetheless, guys, we actually are supposed to be getting this information before March 9th, which is Nakon Connect's March Nakon Connect show. There's going to be 2 of them. I've already went over this, so let me just shut up and get straight into the developer interview. Now, the first question that I asked Alain Jarniou was, what are you most proud about over the course of KT's WRC series? And he went on to say, when we started working on the WRC series with WRC 5, it was a big challenge for the KT racing team. It was the first AA game developed by a small team of passionate people. There were so many steps to climb to provide an authentic rally experience. Cars, physics, level design, visuals, game modes, all that's respectful of the WRC regulations and fans' expectations. I think the thing I'm most proud of is the evolution of the company, our team expertise, tools, and engine in order to provide a whole credible and enjoyable rally experience. We grew up with the WRC series games. Our game engine, the KT engine, is a perfect illustration of that. It has been following us for several years now, and it represents our trademark. It brought us a lot. The enhancement of the physics simulation over the years has allowed us to get out of the game and be recognized for realism of our productions. It also opened the doors to new automotive partnerships even outside of the gaming industry. We keep updating it and upgrading it according to our needs, pushing the limits further for games like Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown. That's the first mention of TDU. Now this is pretty cool, guys. As I've said, I would want to agree with what Alain said because, like, if we look at what KT has done from WRC 5 all the way to now, even physics alone, guys, it is such a huge thing. So hats off to that, and I'm really proud that KT developed WRC Generations and now working on the biggest game ever, TDU. Now the next question I asked was, the KT engine has made vast improvements over the past few years. How do you keep up with the likes of AAA studios with your in-house engine? And Alain went on to answer, there's no secret, it takes a lot of work and we have a full team exclusively dedicated to the KT engine. It is important that I can follow the direction that the studio is taking and the variety of games that we offer. It excels for racing games, but when we had to work on 2-wheeled vehicles on previous games such as Alain TT Ride to the Edge 1 and 2 was developed by Kylotonn, and obviously bikes are 2-wheeled vehicles, a lot of things had to be redesigned. It's the same principle with TDU. We used to design closed maps, and now we are working on an open world game. The needs are different and the KT engine evolves accordingly. So another question, the third one, guys, is WRC Generations has arguably one of the best physics in the series. How did you get to this point, and what would you say was the hardest part to simulate? Now, Alain Jarniou went on to answer, the part that required the most work was managing the hybrid module, as it was new and it had to be developed from scratch. But the most complex and difficult part was improving the ground contact management of the tires, which is crucial for racing games, but even more for an off-road racing game with many different surfaces. So pretty cool insight into how, you know, just a rough idea of how Kylotonn do the physics for the WRC games, which chances are is going to be something similar in TDU. But now let's go on to probably a very interesting question I asked, but what would you say was the hardest part to develop the entire WRC series? And Alain Jarniou went on to say this, from the beginning, the main focus was to provide the best simulation possible. It is the core experience in a rally game, obviously, but the challenge is complex. There's so much subsystems such as tires, engine, transmission, turbo, brakes, suspensions are just the tip of the iceberg. To implement for a fully functioning simulation that we had to go step by step. The KT engine is constantly evolving to provide the most complete simulation possible, but it also takes a lot of time to get it in the place and parts had to be interpreted. The KT engine is constantly evolving to provide the most complete simulation possible, but it takes a lot of time to get it all in place and parts had to be interpreted. Every new game of the WRC series has to provide the most convincing experience, the right balance between the simulation engine possibilities and an authentic behavior of cars. We have to make the right choices according according to the simulation components we were able to simulate or not. The ultimate goal is always to deliver the best driving experience for the players, but the road was long until we get a complete simulation system. There was always enhancements to do. This year, for example, the Rally 1 cars had a new hybrid engine to implement. Every game comes with new challenges. Think about the number of different cars we have in TDUSC, and we want every car to feel different. That's a hard part of the job, but it's also what makes it so exciting. So again, another reconfirmation from what Alain Jarniou has said in an earlier interview, I'm pretty sure. He did say he wants every car in TDUSC to feel different, which above all else, guys, is a crazy thing, because looking at the competition, most cars feel the same. Even the rewarding experience when you bought them, the connection you had with it, it wasn't really there. So it's really nice to hear Alain Jarniou talking about that again for TDUSC. Now I moved on and asked another question: what feature are you most proud about in WRC Generations? And he said there are many things we are proud about the game, starting with a new rendering for sceneries, the implementation of the hybrid engines, livery catalog, etc. But in Generations, we are particularly proud about the league system. Now, if you aren't sure what the league system is basically Kylotonn's idea to kind of help the longevity of the game. And in fact, he actually says it's a feature that means a lot to us because it gives us the possibility to offer competition with a lot of diversity using the huge content of the game. Cars, countries, weather conditions, and for the community, a way to make the game last over time. It's a way for us to be able to maintain the game over time as long as players are here to enjoy the game through a global competition, updating the online content and the challenges it offers. Now, I really do hope that there's something similar to this in TDUSC. In fact, it'd be a no-brainer to have something like this in TDUSC as well. So pretty cool to hear that from what Alain Jarniou said. But let's get into the juicy parts, guys. So I went on to also ask, how does the WRC Generations share the KT engine amongst the likes of your other games library? TDUSC. He does go on to say, all of our games are using the KT engine, so they all share the same enhancements until the game enters beta stage. At this point, the KT engine version is dissociated from the main branch and only receives debugs and optimizations. That's how WRC Generations got enhancements like the new lighting system from Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown and vice versa until its beta stage back in May. So up until May pretty much is what we were getting in WRC Generations, anything from the TDUSC engine. But with that being said, that's pretty cool. That means most likely from last year all the way to now, they're still getting an upgraded version of the KT engine, TDUSC that is. So pretty cool to hear that from Alain Jarniou. Now let's move on to something that I think a lot of you guys would have actually wanted to ask, but you didn't think you'd get an answer about it. I asked, how do you develop how a game feels to a player across multiple control type styles, from wheel, controller, and even some cases keyboard? Now, Alain Jarniou did say vehicle dynamics are the basis and they are developed on a reference controller, either specific wheel or gamepad. Once the dynamics are tuned with a specific controller, other controllers are tested. They might, and sometimes will, require some form of tuning. Example, the sensitivity of the sticks are not the same on DualSense or Xbox Series controller, which I'm sure we all knew. Now, there are so many controllers out there that we have to use metrics and pick the most abundant ones to focus on them first, and tuning for keyboards is quite hard due to the non-analog input. It is not the best controller for an optimal experience, but we know that there's still quite a significant part of players using it. So we use these systems like input filtering to make it the best possible. Wheels are a whole other kind of worms due to the variety from either hardware or driver configurations. Thanks to the very good relationships we've got with peripheral manufacturers, we keep being updated with new hardwares and work on custom configurations for all. It's a huge part of the job as there are so many different combinations between wheels, bases, pedals, handbrakes, and we also have to manage old setups. There is no secret, it's a matter of time, lots of work, and a close attention to players' feedback. Now, no brainer, you guys probably already expected TDUSC to have wheel support as well as controller and keyboard support, but it's just something that, you know, you can kind of hang on to, just so you know, keyboard people, you won't be left out in TDUSC most likely. Now, the next question I did decide to ask, the stages in WRC Generations are incredible. How does it go from the real life to recreating in game with a certain landmarks and familiar roads present? Now, this was kind of, you know, you can relate this a lot more to TDUSC because obviously, just like WRC Generations and WRC stages, believe it or not, they're actually modeled after real life and pretty damn well. Up on the screen right now is a video that someone uploaded of comparing WRC Generations to the real life rally, and what it looks like is pretty stunning, guys. So let's take a look at what Alain Jarniou had to say. He just say, first of all, we take a deep look at what made the rally so famous and unique in real life, from onboard videos of professional rally drivers to pictures and videos and documentation gathered by spectators and official sources. We identified the big landmarks, if there are any portions of any stages in the country that are legendary or a famous jump, bridge. Then we search for small information, like what is the state of the tarmac, clean like Japan or big with damages like in Croatia. And then even deeper, how do the road borders look like on stage? How do they feel when you drive on them? Do they have big sharp rocky edges like in Mexico or very soft dirt like Estonia? We need to have a lot of references before going to the production phase, and this is essential for us to create a new stage design that will truly feel like belonging to this country and represent the best that this country can offer. Now, with that being said, it kind of makes me think that for TDSC, they're gonna do something very similar. That's why the map, not a single issue on my end, guys, because if you played WRC Generations, you know the stage design is incredible. So the map, Hong Kong Island, 550 kilometers of road, the most in any open world racing game since The Crew. And if you take out The Crew since Test Drive Unlimited, bro, that's 13 years ago. Pretty crazy to even think that. And last but not least, the final question that you probably are going to want to hear. I asked Alain Jarniou to finish off this interview, is there anything you'd like to tease or hint the community with since your only known developed game is TDUSC? And he answered this pretty interestingly. In fact, I was surprised that this question even got answered at all, but here it is. He says, I would rather reassure the community. That goes a long way, Alain Jarniou, so thank you for saying this. Now, he does say, I know there's a lot of expectation on this game. I have just as much. TDU games were a revolution in the video game industry. TDU was a forerunner as a driving MMO. Now, many create their driving games on the model it brought. He's not wrong. This must be taken into consideration when looking at TDUSC. So beyond the obvious novelty that the franchise offered, what always differentiated it from its competitors? This question prompted us to identify the DNA of the license, because this is what it will truly differentiate TDUSC these days, beyond the MMO aspect, which completely right, guys. The TDU DNA still has not been adapted in many other racing games, so he is right. Shout out to Alain Jarniou for that. Now he does go on to say, I honestly think among all the qualitative competitors, none has what makes TDU so unique in its genre. The video game industry has also evolved a lot since the first TDU, and so you have the standards. It means that the difficulty of this project is also to manage to bring its modernity without deviating too much from the TDU universe. So this was a huge surprise to me that they were able to answer that and answer it in that way even. He actually chose, instead of teasing us some information, he'd rather reassure us. That went a long way in my opinion, but comment down below what you guys think on what his response is. I do want to mention, I just want to say huge thanks to Alain for that first interview, and I have no doubt that we'll have more of them in the future. But again, guys, if you did enjoy it, leave a like and subscribe for more Test Drive Unlimited Solo Crown content. You already know we're going to be getting news in the next 3 weeks, so I literally cannot wait for that. And you guys already know, stay tuned to my channel. I'll let you guys know as soon as that news drops. But you already know what it is, guys. I'm Lock7. This is the Dev interview. Yeah, I know, guys, about time. 3 years. I know it took that long, but yeah. I'm Lock7. I'm out, guys. Peace. There's another video over here somewhere.